I'm Craig Barbee, CEO of Barbee Jackson Insurance. Today we're going to speak to Krystal Jackson. She's also Vice President of Barbee Jackson Insurance. She's really going to go over today the ins and outs of Louisiana dealership insurance. So Krystal, first introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your role here at Barbee Jackson.
Okay, hi, I'm Krystal Jackson. As Craig said, I'm Vice President, and my role here is to oversee our garage department. So as a specialty, anything related to things that move. So whether you sell or repair cars, boats, equipment, we can help cover it all and design policies to fit our customers' needs.
Great. The viewers are going to want to know, why is dealership insurance important?
This is extremely important because this is your livelihood. So the goal of the policy is to protect your assets, so your inventory, your office equipment, furniture, tools, as well as protect you from liability. So if a customer comes on the lot, slips and falls, trips, test drive, auto accident, all of that is designed to protect your business.
Great information. So there's a big difference between general liability insurance and garage liability insurance.
Yes.
So can you go into the details of what garage liability insurance is for dealerships? Because that's specifically designed for that line of business.
Absolutely. A lot of times clients call asking for general liability, and the problem with a typical general liability policy is it specifically excludes any driving exposure. So inherently, when you're repairing or selling vehicles, you're driving them, and a standard general liability policy is going to exclude the vast part of your operations.
So you're saying that the general liability policy that most people are know about in the world,
right,
has an exclusion on auto side.
Exactly. So a lot of times we get a call and they let us know they need insurance, they need general liability for their dealership. And I said, okay, so what we're wanting to quote is garage liability. And they say, no, I don't have a garage, so I don't need that coverage. It's important to note that even though it's labeled garage liability, you don't have to have a garage. It's just a term, a name for the coverage.
Okay, so basically insurance companies embedded a coverage level to match what the dealerships or repair shops need.
Exactly. And the standard garage liability policy is going to have three basic components. So you have your auto liability. So again, similar to a commercial auto policy, you're test driving a car, you get into an at-fault accident, it's going to pay for the bodily injury and property damage for the party that you may hit. And then the other than auto is what is often covered under a general liability policy. So that's your slip and fall on the premises, bodily injury, property damage, and then you have an other than auto aggregate or maximum payout for claims for the policy term, which is a standard year. That aggregate or max payout does not apply to the auto. That's
so
only
applies to slip and fall type.
Exactly.
So they can have multiple claims on the auto side, and the aggregate will not be affected on.
Exactly. It's not applicable to that specific part of coverage.
Like most of the viewers are going to be curious about Louisiana Pacific coverages. So what specifically kind of coverage does the state of Louisiana, because every state's different. Every state wants a different liability limit.
In Louisiana, the liability requirements for dealerships, and this is specific to dealerships because repair shops do not have a requirement in Louisiana. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't carry it, and we can talk more about that. But specifically for Louisiana dealerships, you would be required to carry $55,000 for any one occurrence. So that's your auto limit or other than auto limit. And then the aggregate we always double, so that would be at $110,000.
Okay, and there's also a bond that's required?
Correct. So the state will require you to carry a bond, and in Louisiana that would be a $50,000 surety bond.
Okay, great. Now we're based out of Florida, and most people know we're susceptible to hurricanes. So is Louisiana, so let's go into how are the dealerships protecting against their lot, against basically damages to the inventory from flood, hurricane, hail, the big three.
Absolutely. In this coverage, we would have, it's the same thing, but there's two different names for it. So you may have some policies that will refer to the coverage as dealer's open lot. Others will refer to it as dealer's physical damage, but it means the same thing. It's gonna be coverage for your lot, your inventory vehicles that you have, whether they're on your lot, driving away from premises, and it'll pay out for hail, wind, flood. It is important to note that depending on where you're at in Louisiana, it may be hard to get coverage for those acts. The northern part does tend to struggle with hail more, and then of course the southern part of the state, hurricanes, so your wind and flood, and they will also typically have a different deductible if the coverage is available. So for example, you may have a $1,000 deductible for theft or fire, all other perils, but if it's for wind, hail, flood, those can sometimes be a $2,500 deductible. It's also important to note that the policies will often have a cap for the claim. So if you have multiple vehicles damaged, you're going to cap out on your deductible. So it may be $5,000 or $10,000 max deductible, but in many cases that wind, hail, flood won't have a cap.
Okay, expanding on that, do you have to insure the whole entire lot?
Yes.
Or can you say, hey, I just want to cover like half of the lot inventory? Let's say I have $100,000 inventory, but I really just want to cover 50.
That is such a good question, because a lot of times people don't go into that. They're only concerned with the expensive vehicles on the lot. Most, or the majority, I would like to say all policies, because if you go off of this rule and then if there's an exception, the carrier will let you know, is a 100% co-insurance clause. So what that means is that you must insure the lot to 100% of the value at any time. So a lot of people say, okay, well that's fine, I'm not going to have a total lot loss,
Right.
so I'll just cover X amount of dollars. The problem with that is, let's say you have one vehicle damage and it's an auto accident. It's not even a weather-related claim. The first question the adjuster is going to ask you is for your inventory assessment. They're going to want to know all the vehicles and the value of all the vehicles. So if you told us that you have 80,000 in inventory, and at the time of the loss, you actually have 100,000 in inventory. Well, now you did not insure it to 100% as the policy requires. You only insured it to 80%. So on that one vehicle, they're only going to pay 80% of the claim. So there is a substantial penalty for not covering the entire lot at all times.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's the big difference between Barbee Jackson Insurance. Is actually, we actually know this.
Right.
And you talk to an average retail dealer, or not dealer, but insurance agency, these are things they probably do not know.
Yeah, it's surprising to me when we get calls from people who've been in business sometimes 20 years, and they've provided the prior policy. It clearly has an insurance clause. A lot of agents don't understand how co-insurance clauses work, so they just don't touch on it.
Yeah, it's
And
not really reviewed a lot in our, we're very
Right.
highly educated, but it's really not something that we learn in classes.
yeah, exactly. So after years in business, people sometimes are shocked to learn that they had this. They were fortunate, though, not to have a claim, so we can make sure to cover it adequately going forward.
Okay. The question, the age-old question, the reason why you're probably watching this video is, how do dealerships save money on their insurance?
Yes.
I know there's people that cut employees out, but they're always gonna get caught and stuff like that. But what are the best ways for dealerships to save money? Because it's all about the savings. I mean, that's what we're providing, the best chance for savings.
Of course. So from a liability standpoint, it's going to be looking at who you're hiring, because with a garage policy, the driver MVR, driver factors, are hugely important. So if you have really young drivers, they're going to be more expensive. If you have, and I say drivers, but these could be employees, and we really can't exclude them for driving except for rare occurrences. So you have to remember that even if they're not driving, they're employed by the dealership or repair shop, they're going to be factored into that. So really young drivers can increase the rate. A lot of people don't realize actually older drivers can really increase the rate and may even require a health certificate, a doctor's letter stating they're fit to drive. So don't be surprised if that comes up if you have older employees. The other thing from the physical damage standpoint is your lot protections. Is it fenced and gated? Do you have barriers that protect against theft, vandalism, are they kept inside of a building? And those are going to be important factors, can save a lot.
And that's going to affect the DOL, the dealer open lot.
Right, the dealer.
That doesn't affect the garage liability.
Correct.
So if something goes wrong, we basically insure thousands of dealerships across the United States. How does the claims process really work? So let's say one of our clients gets into a wreck. What's the process to get this dealership whole again?
Yeah, so the first thing is to call us. We are your agent. We're here for you, and all agents should be. So you give us a call. Usually the best way to file a claim, if it's something related to that, you'll have an accident report that'll give us all the details, date and time of loss. You don't have to read all that off to us. You can let us know what happened, send us the report. We will take care of getting it filed for you. And oftentimes we'll have a claim number and contact number really quickly, if not immediately within that day. And then you should have a call from the adjuster within 24 to 48 hours. Of course, weekends excluded. So if you filed it on Friday afternoon, it may be Monday before you hear back.
Okay. And then let's say, this has happened several times. We got phone calls about this. We have dealer open lot on the lot. So, and this car is valued at $10,000. That's what the dealership paid for the vehicle. But they got a really good deal on it, and they were going to sell this thing for $16,000.
Right.
So how are we going to pay out? We're going to pay out the 10, or we're going to pay out for what it's?
Yeah, we remember the insurance company's goal is to make you whole again. They are not there for you to make a profit or make money off of. So if you had $10,000 in the vehicle, and this is important to note that it's what you have in the vehicle, the wholesale cost is what they're going to pay out because that's what you bought it for. Now, let's say you bought a vehicle at the auction for $10,000, but the vehicle wasn't running, and you have since put $5,000 into the engine to get it up and running. You want those receipts, and this is an important point. Keep receipts for any work you've had done on the vehicle, because if you can show you paid $10,000 and then you put $5,000 in the vehicle, then the payout would be $15,000 there.
Right.
But if you have not invested any funds into the vehicle, it's what you paid for it is what you will get paid.
Okay, so there's no thing you can buy to gap that.
No, you're not making money off the insurance policy.
A little area that we really didn't discuss when we pre-did this a little bit, talked about it, is the dealer tags.
Yes.
How many dealer tags should a Louisiana dealership buy?
Right.
Or pay for?
Yeah.
What's the minimum and what's the max? Is there a max?
So I tell everybody it really is an underwriting tool. So if you have a one owner, small operation, you don't have any employees, it's just you would expect to have 2, maybe 3 tags. Some only will purchase 1 if they are only planning to use the tag for moving vehicles around, getting them to and from the auction, and they're not driving the vehicle for any personal use, meaning they're not furnished an inventory vehicle to drive home for personal use. However, if you do have a furnished auto, most likely you're going to put a tag on that vehicle and you're going to leave it there. So then you may need 1 or 2 others to put on vehicles to move them for repairs or for driving to and from the auction. So 1 to 3 per person. If you have, again, I'm sticking with the one owner example. Right. If you ask us for 10 dealer tags, you're going to raise a lot of red flags and a lot of questions. And realistically, we're not going to be able to get that done because who needs 10 tags if only one person is driving?
Yeah, you mentioned in this tag thing, the furnished auto. What exactly is a furnished auto?
Yeah, it's very common for dealers to not have their own personal vehicle because they're always jumping in inventory vehicles to move them around. Or maybe I just got this one fixed, I want to drive it a little bit, make sure it's up and running really well before I list it for sale. So instead of having to go to the lot, get in my own personal car, drive it home, go to the grocery store, pick the kids up from soccer, I'm just going to drive an inventory vehicle, and that's called furnished auto. It's a very important coverage if you're ever going to drive a vehicle for any personal use. Again, home in the evening, to the grocery store that's not work related, no business use, strictly personal use. If you don't have that furnished auto and you get into an accident or a claim happens at your home, let's say a tree falls on it sitting in your driveway, if there's no furnished auto, that claim is going to be denied.
That's very good information. Got one last thing. I mean, what's the best piece of advice that you would give to any Louisiana dealership?
The best piece of advice is let us know what you're doing. So often people are very concerned about saving money, and it is important. We want to help you build a policy that's going to cover you and also be affordable. I mean, I talked to clients just yesterday. I had a conversation. You can go insurance poor. There's a lot of add-ons and things that you can purchase that may not always be applicable, or it's a once in a blue moon situation that you're concerned with. But you want to disclose what your operations are, how you're going to use the vehicles, what you're going to do, so that we can discuss the coverages and make sure we get what you need. Furnished auto is, to go back to that, is probably the best example. A lot of times people will say, no, I'm not driving it for personal use. I'm never going to drive it home. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's just not realistic. I grew up in the industry. You're going to drive it home. And so that furnished auto may be $150 to $300 a year. Is that really worth the savings to potentially not have a claim on a vehicle? So let's have a conversation. And in talking about it doesn't mean that you have to purchase the coverage. We can price out the different options. But don't withhold information from us that could be very pertinent to making sure you're covered.
Yeah, and I'd also add on to that. A lot of people, when they call up, they get garage liability insurance, they think it's going to cover their inventory. And it really does not cover their inventory.
No.
This poor dealer could have $50,000 to $100,000, $200,000 worth of money tied up in their inventory, and thinking the garage liability is going to pick it up.
Correct. And the other thing on that too is a lot of times people will call and they're just starting. They need the insurance to get their license. They haven't even bought an inventory yet, and understandably so, they're trying to keep the cost down. So I'm going to just buy the garage liability right now. We discuss the dealer's open lot coverage, and let me start with liability.
So you
don't
add
have
that coverage on later on.
Yes. We can add the dealer's open lot later, but that's where there's some responsibility on the policy owner or the business owner, because once we've written it, we're there for you, but we don't know when you go buy your first car.
No, we don't.
We're not on site, so it's your responsibility, and you need to make sure you call us. We can make changes, same thing with employees. Maybe when you start, you haven't hired anybody, it's just you. Great, but as soon as you hire someone, make sure you call to add them, because if they're driving and they're not listed, again, that claim is going to be denied. So have a conversation with us throughout the year. Make sure if you're making changes, call and discuss it with us so we can help you keep your policy current.
That's great information. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Our team at Barbee Jackson Insurance, we have a division of people that just do dealership insurance repair shops.
Yes.
That's really the advantage to Barbee Jackson Insurance. You don't find a lot of retail agencies that know the ins and outs, the exclusions to the policies. Lots of exclusions. We have to read through, tell our underwriter, hey, we don't like this exclusion, take this one off, or you quoted it wrong. We're trying to get this right. But like I said, if you liked this video, please subscribe to our channel. We put out weekly content, and Barbee Jackson Insurance.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.